Good afternoon, everybody. It's Miss Morgan from the Williston Community Library bringing you today's summer reading program. So today you are going to need your bag and then your paint and your glue. And what you're going to do is you're going to pull your giraffe out of your bag and your bag that has some buttons in it. We're going to use the buttons, and then you're also going to need your paintbrush and your paint. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to paint our giraffe. And I'm going to go ahead and I am going to zoom in so you can see the giraffe a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to open my paints. And you want to be careful when you open them because they might make a mess. So I'm going to open my paints, and I know that your paints probably aren't the same color as what a giraffe might look like in real life. But what we're going to do is we're going to use our imagination and pretend that giraffes are all of these cool colors. So I think I'm going to use green, so and I think I'm going to use green and then white for my giraffe. And you have 3 colors that you can choose from. So hopefully you can use any of those colors. All right, and so now that I have my green and my white open, because those are the colors that I want to paint my giraffe, I'm going to go ahead and begin painting. And the reason that we're going to use glue and our buttons is we are going to be putting the spots on our giraffe. And if you want to paint some spots on too, that works as well. So as you can see, I'm painting my giraffe's legs green. And it's going to take a little bit for it to dry. So while it's drying, we're going to read our story. Now I'm going to paint its tail. My giraffe's going to have some stripes, kind of like a zebra would have. And you can paint your giraffe however you would like. And if you notice, I'm using a little bit of green mixed with my white just to make a lighter green. Hopefully your giraffes are coming out. I'm sure they're going to be gorgeous. I don't know about you, but I have never seen a green giraffe before. But maybe you have. Alright, so now that my giraffe is done being painted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it sit here for a little bit. And I'm going to unzoom, and we are going to go ahead and read our story while our giraffes dry. And we are going to read about a chalk giraffe. And I'm going to zoom back in. Sorry guys, I accidentally hit the wrong button. Alright, so we're going to read The Chalk Giraffe, and this is written by Kirsty Paxton, illustrated by Megan Lötter. The Chalk Giraffe. One day, I drew a giraffe out of chalk. My giraffe came alive. He could eat, he could talk. And look, if you see, the giraffe is yellow and orange. I'm alone, he cried out. There's just gray around. So I drew him a tree growing up from the ground. My giraffe liked that tree, with leaves blowing in the breeze. They tickled his nose and made him sneeze. Achoo! But still I could see that his face looked forlorn, peering out from among the acacia tree thorns. My giraffe would not laugh. Instead, he just said, I am tired, and I can't use cement for a bed. Do you think you'd be able to use cement for a bed? Because I know I wouldn't be able to. So I drew him some grass. It was bright green and lush, and soon the night came, and all was a hush. Till my chalk giraffe gave a deep, grumpy sigh, and then waited for me to make a reply. What's the matter? I asked. It's too dark, he protested. I need a night light to get well rested. And look at his grumpy face. So I drew him a zillion bright, white, chalky stars, and later a sun coming up from afar. Too much, Giraffe grumbled. It's so bright I can't see. Draw me some shade for under my tree. Well, I've had enough, I said, dropping my chalk. I wish I'd never drawn a giraffe that could talk. Instead of saying thanks, you make rude demands. So goodbye, Chalk Giraffe. You've had your last chance. And look, the giraffe is sticking the tongue out. I don't know if you can see that, but the tongue is sticking out. So I rubbed that giraffe right out with my shoe, and the stars and the sun, and the tree that I grew. Uh-oh. But that night I kept thinking of my work of art. Sad thoughts settled deep down in my heart. I really missed that grumbling giraffe. I knew I still loved him, laugh or no laugh. The next morning I leapt awake. I picked up my chalk to fix my mistake. I drew a sun and some stars, an acacia with thorns, and my frowning giraffe from his feet to his horns. But this time I noticed a twinkle in his eye. He seemed full of mischief. I wonder why. Why do you think the giraffe might be full of mischief? The giraffe grabbed my chalk, and I suddenly found I had stick legs and arms, and was stuck to the ground. Come, said Giraffe, and look down from up here. The world looks quite different than it would appear. So I proudly showed off my tree climbing talents and scaled his long neck with great skill and balance. And finally perched between his two horns, I surveyed this new world, and I too felt forlorn or sad. I saw what he saw, and it looked kind of lonely. He needed more friends to make his home homey. I know what's missing, I cried out with glee. This world needs much more than just you and me. So Giraffe and I got to work right that minute. We drew zebras, a buck, and a small spotted net. We drew snakes up in trees and tiny dung beetles, a lounging leopard, and 2 sprinting cheetahs. Look at all of the animals, and look, the giraffe finally has a smile on his face. And a rhino with horns, and an elephant with trunks, and a croc with a grin, looking out for his lunch. There's still something missing, Giraffe whined without end. Will you ever be happy? I asked my chalk friend. But still I could see, from Giraffe's point of view, there was something absent. A giraffe number 2. So I let my chalk friend draw another giraffe. It looked just like him, except that it laughed. I sighed with relief. It had taken a while, but our work was now done. Giraffe finally smiled. So I climbed right back down his long furry neck, till I was to him just a small tiny speck. When I left the chalk world, my giraffe didn't flinch, but I think that I saw his right eye move an inch. And I knew at that moment we'd created great art, and I was glad that I'd let my giraffe play his part. The end. All right, so now that we've had a chance to read our book and our paints had a little bit of time to dry, we are going to go ahead and we are going to pull out our glue. So in our bags are these bigger containers, and the big white container is glue. And then what you're going to do is you're going to also pull out a popsicle stick, because I mean you can use your paintbrush, but I'd rather use a popsicle stick so my paintbrush doesn't get ruined when we're using the glue. And I'm going to dump out my buttons. So I've got my buttons here, and I've got my glue and my popsicle stick and my giraffe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my glue, and you don't want to use a lot of glue because then it'll take forever to dry. Alright, so now that I've got my glue open and I have my giraffe and my buttons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my spots on my giraffe. So I'm going to just put a little bit of glue on the back of my button. And you can use all of your buttons or you could just use a couple. It's totally up to you. And you want to make sure you put enough glue that it will stick. And the glue will come up between the buttons, but that is okay. So far, my giraffe has 2 spots. And I think I'm gonna give him, or her, I haven't decided. I think I'm gonna give them a button eye. Oops. All right. And now I'm gonna give my giraffe a couple more spots. And some buttons may be small and some might be really big. It just depends. All right, so I think I gave my giraffe enough spots. So here is my giraffe. And like I said, you can use as many or as little buttons as you want. I used a button for an eye, or you can just paint an eye on. So I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons on my giraffe. So my button has 6 spots and the eye. All right, everybody, that is going to conclude today's summer reading activity. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time.